Everyone, welcome to our Better Way Thursday workshop this week. We are super excited about this topic. A lot of our tech moms have talked about their desires to work really flexibly and have flexibility not just throughout the day or throughout the week, but throughout the year. And one of the things that we've talked about is a way to maximize your own flexibility is either through becoming your own boss as an entrepreneur or becoming a contractor. There are other ways as well, but this is a topic that's been of great interest to a lot of us. And so I am so thrilled today to have a couple of experts on this issue here with us from Soul Seed Academy. We have Sarah and Jeanne, and I'm going to let them just introduce themselves and tell us also a little bit about Soul Seed Academy, and then dive right into this issue, which is the theme for the workshop today is, should you be an employee, a contractor, or an entrepreneur? So just as a reminder, if you've got questions throughout the workshop, feel free to put them in the chat, or if you want to, we're a small group today, so just raise your hand, unmute yourself and go ahead with your question. But the rest of the time, please keep yourself on mute. If you've got cameras on, that would be great. And Sarah and Jeanne will save some time for questions at the end, but they want this to be interactive. So if we've got questions in the middle, go ahead. And so Sarah and Jeanne, I will turn things over to you.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, you guys feel free to just pipe in. I like to be interrupted. It's totally fine. I've got 4 teenagers, very used to it. So my name is Sarah, and this is my co-founder, Jeanne, and we're from Soul Seed Academy. I've been an entrepreneur my entire life. I started my web design career in 1999 when back when I actually could only, get into the dial-up to test my actual website designs in the middle of the night, when the rest of the family didn't use the phone. But I have built multiple businesses, and my tech skills will shock you at how great they are, and yet how much I was able to accomplish with them. So I've been an employee, I've been an independent contractor, and I've been an entrepreneur. And so I'm really, really excited to talk about being a woman in tech in these three fields, these 3 aspects. So Jeanne?
And I'm Jeanne, and my background's a little bit different, but it's actually been a real benefit to me. My background is mental health nursing, and I was able to work with at-risk youth, with women and girls with eating disorders, with the whole entire spectrum. And what it showed me was how important it is to have something that you're passionate about, to know what your calling is, to know that there's something that you can do to make a difference. And it's amazing what you can do that might seem mundane that can take that role. And so a couple of years ago, I met up with Sarah, and I joined what she's doing. And it's really interesting because as we've worked together to help women build independence and businesses, we see the healing that can happen not only in women themselves, but in their families and in the people they interact with. And so for me, it's very much about your message. It's about your brand. You hear about brands all over the place, but what is that exactly? Well, it's everything about your business, including yourself. And so just a clarity is one of those things that I'm really passionate and really good at helping with. So we're really excited to be here to help you start getting some clarity as to directions that and explore opportunities and paths that you might want to take.
Awesome. Okay, so let me just share my screen and we'll get started. So we are Soul Seed Academy, and we just want to give you a foundation of what we believe in, because it's a little different than a lot of the people that we interact with. We believe that you have the right to find a perfect position for your gifts and your skills, and you deserve to have that without fear and without judgment. In the tech world, being a woman in tech, I know being a woman in tech and business is just makes you weird. So people just don't know where to put you or what to do with you. And so we hope that you'll just feel like very heard, seen, validated in this discussion. And also we believe very strongly that by watching your outstanding example, your children are going to be able to create opportunities and solve problems for themselves and their families. We don't work in a bubble. That's what I found in tech, is that it's a very masculine dominated field, and they go and do their coding and then they come home. Oh, Bethany's getting on our, okay, sorry, get that out of the way. That they go do their coding and then they come home to the wife and kids or whatever. But we believe that living your legacy is really, really important. That getting your kids involved in STEM and in what you're doing, and that even as a coder in your room with your coffee at 2 a.m., you can still show your kids your work ethic, your problem solving, your just all the beautiful things that that you're doing. So we in Soul Seed Academy, we were a full service business incubator for purpose-driven women, and we provide everything from branding, video, website, social media, graphic design, everything in our incubator program. We liken it under to a greenhouse. That every seed cast in a forest has great potential, but most don't sprout because the forest is a pretty rough place to be a seed. But if you were to take the seeds into a greenhouse and sprout them, you'd get them all to sprout. And then if you nourished them and took care of them and then took them back into the forest and planted them next to their mother tree and put a milk jug over them and kept them away from the hungry critters and the deer, you'd get them to start growing, and you'd have a much higher rate of success with them. And we feel it the same way with women. Sometimes because of the challenges we have as caretakers, and just our hearts are different than a lot of people in business, that we need a little bit more nurturing. We need a little bit more help before we can fully get into the regular world, the business world. So anyway, okay, so we're just going to have a really quick discussion on strengths. And the goal of this is to reframe them so we can kind of open your mind to the discussion afterwards. Jeannie's going to lead you through this, but then after that, I'm going to have a hardcore discussion, and I hope it's going to be funny and triggering and all at the same time, because we're really going to take apart the 3 independent contractor, employee, and entrepreneur options. And we want you to have kind of a reframe of your strengths so that you can go into that discussion with an open mind.
Okay, so every one of us has obvious things that we know of as strengths. And what's interesting is everyone's individual, and there's no cookie cutters. And sometimes in the masculine world, it feels like they're looking for cookie cutters. And what makes you stand out and different is knowing who you are. Okay. So this discussion will take a really honest look at yourself. Don't have any preset expectations on what other people might want. This is all about you and where you know yourself, okay? So there's the obvious strengths. You know what your strengths are, but then there's a different kind of strength that often gets masked as something negative. And so we're gonna show what that means, okay? So the first thing, I want to give some examples, and then if something comes to mind that fits what we're doing, please, I would love to workshop it with you. So the first one is procrastination. How many of us hear all the time about how terrible it is to be a procrastinator and to feel guilty because we've pushed it through to the last minute? But man, what's amazing about that? You are adaptable. That's one of the things of it, because, oh my gosh, so I'm taking a class right now, and it's summer. The last 2 weeks were just insane. And I did all my work, 10 hours of work in 5 hours, right on the last day. But you know what? It turned out really well. I did great. I did all the things I had to do as a mom, as a wife, as a business owner, and I still got my homework done. So adaptability is actually a strength that is often called procrastination. Okay. So the next one, lack of focus. This one can be really interesting. Have you ever felt like you're all over the place? Like there is so much that you're doing, and you're doing a little here and a little there, and you come back and do that and that. That's part of many of our lives. It's almost impossible to sit down and focus for 3 hours, because you'll get a phone call, you'll get something coming in, a kid pops in, you'll get a text that has to be taken care of, but you keep coming back, right? So the special thing about this, it's creativity. You can create no matter, you've got all these pieces, and it's about putting all those pieces in place. Okay. Next one, anxiety. Oh, this is a big one that we see all the time, especially when you're getting going on something new, or when you're changing over to, like I've changed over from being a nurse to being an entrepreneur and a branding expert and a business coach. There's a lot of anxiety that can come up as you're doing something new. However, it's because you feel so much. Empathy is the strength that comes from this one. You're very aware of all the things, and that is a strength. Okay. Next one is overwhelm. Okay. There's a lot of things being asked of us as women, and it can be overwhelming, but it's because we're aware. Awareness is the strength that this is. When you're aware of all the things and they feel like they're burying you, take a step back and take a mindful awareness and go, okay, what are the things I've become aware of, and where do they all fit? This can take like just a few moments. Even it can even be momentary. But yeah, you are aware if you're easily overwhelmed. Okay. The last one that I want to bring up, it's an interesting one because it's one that never goes away. Have you ever heard of imposter syndrome or feeling like an imposter? Okay, this one's really funny because it's really easy to feel like an imposter when you're brand new at something. Like you have to show up and act like an expert when you're still learning, you're still trying to get that first experience. But what's interesting is that people who are experts, they feel like imposters too, because they know there's so much more to learn. Those who are learners, I have observed, are specifically sensitive to feeling like an imposter. So it shows that you're teachable. You're always learning. There's a term that I love, and it's called confident humility. It's being aware of what's not there and being open to learning. So these are, I hope you can see the pattern of where I'm going. Is there something that you deal with that you've been criticized for, or that you feel like you have to overcome, that maybe there's a special strength underneath it that's not being realized? Robin, can I pick on you?
I was going to say, is anybody brave enough to share? So
it's a vulnerable conversation,
right,
and I understand how vulnerable this is. And if you don't feel like sharing, that's okay. I just want to show you to take a really honest look at yourself, and not in the way that other people look at yourselves. There's a lot of criticism. There's a lot of guilt that may have been passed on for, since you were a child. Is there something about you that was unique about you as a child? Like maybe you were shy, or you were quiet, or what label is it that you were given, over time, that it's actually something that's a very integral part of you, and it's a strength and it's a gift. To be shy and quiet, you're an observer. You're again, this kind of goes with the overwhelm. You're very aware of all the things going on around you.
Well,
so
I am definitely not shy or quiet. Those are 2 words that no one would ever use.
Let's take the other one.
Well, let me tell you something that I definitely see as a weakness that I have, and maybe you can help me understand how it might be a strength. So I am very risk averse, and I plan and plan and plan and plan and don't act, right? So I'm a Gallup strengths coach, and when I was getting my my own strengths results and things like that, I noticed that in my top 10 results, I have all these strategic learner, relationship building, all this stuff. I don't have a single executing strength. So I can plan forever, but it is so hard for me to just jump and do. So if you want to help me understand how that is a strength, that I'm not an executor, that I don't
Oh, yeah.
and dive in.
Well, okay, you are very aware. You see all the things. To get things done, you have to partner yourself up with somebody. And there's nothing wrong with partnering yourself up with someone. Sarah and I work that way very much. We are very much polar opposites in many ways.
Just look at our backgrounds.
Yin and yang, right? But there's nothing wrong with having those strengths. But there's also needs to be there's that confident humility that you can't do it on your own. So you look for somebody. It doesn't mean you have to partner in business with them, but who supports you? You're very aware as a strategic person of where your weaknesses are. And so be honest. There's a certain level of honesty too.
Yeah.
What do you need and who are you looking for in your life and how do they fit? So for you, it's mostly, I would say your strength would be honesty.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing I learned. I'm like, I will never start a business by myself. Like I will have to have a partner who is an executor. And that's what Mikkel and I like, we're both a little bit that way. Mikkel's more of an executor than I am, but Trina's like, let's dive in. Yeah. Who cares what we're doing? We don't know anything. And so we work really well with each other. Because Trina is a dive, go. And Mikkel and I are like, well, let's make sure. let's and so it's actually
and Trina needs you.
She does. We all need each other.
Yeah. So it's a beautiful thing. Thank you so much for bringing that up, Robin. Okay.
Kara shared something in the chat. She said, another idea, someone who is described as emotional could instead be considered as passionate. Of course, it's critical to channel our emotions properly, but that's a great point.
Yes, I love that. It doesn't mean that these are things that, with any strength, there's a dark side and a light side. And so procrastination can be a dark side, whereas adaptability can be the light side of the strength. So you're very right. It needs to be kept, reined in. So thank you for the participation. And I hope this is a good tool for you. So the idea is don't be hard on yourself because of all the things people have told you about yourself. Take an honest look at yourself. Why is this and what is special about me? Okay, I'm going to pass it on to Sarah.
Thanks, Jeannie. That was perfect. Okay, so I purposefully made some of these statements a little bit edgy and snarky because I want you to question them for yourself. I want you to push back on me if you think my perspective is wrong. Again, I have been an independent contractor, employee, and entrepreneur in the tech world. And so this is based on my perception. And so I definitely swing more to the entrepreneur because I am an entrepreneur currently. So if it feels a little entrepreneur positive, then rein it in and let's make it more employee positive. That's my only concern. So I don't want you, this isn't about what Sarah thinks and my way or the highway. This is like really truly about helping you find that peace in that path you want to take. So okay, so we've got employee, independent contractor, entrepreneur, and we're just going to talk about the pros and cons of each. So time commitment. As an employee, it's a lot of time. Independent contractor, it's a lot of time. As an entrepreneur, it's a lot of time. So a lot of these things, I also want to dispel myths because that saying the grass is always greener on the other side. Oh, so much greener on the other side. And everybody like, well, if I was an employee, I would have, or if as an employee would say, if I were an entrepreneur, I could just go on vacation whenever I want. And as an entrepreneur, I'm like, what? I was at my hotel last night up until like 11 o'clock dealing with stuff. Like if I were an employee, I would have been home at 5 and that would have been it, right? So grass is always greener on the other side. Time flexibility. So as an employee, you have the least of the options. So if you tend to have a hard time self-motivating, then this would be a strength for you to have a boss on your case, to have a schedule that you have to be accountable to. Independent contractors honestly have the best time flexibility. You can work whenever you want. As an independent contractor, do you know the difference legally between an independent contractor and an employee? The rule of thumb, go ahead, Robin.
No, I was going to say, please explain it.
Yeah, so the difference is IRS standards is if your employer, if your client slash whoever's paying you is telling you when to work, how to work, and what tools to use, you are an employee. If you can, so if I hire you to do a website for me and tell you it needs to be on WordPress, and I need you to do it from the hours of 11 to 12 in the morning, so I can be like there available for you, and I'm going to pay for the WordPress subscription, you are an employee. Like, do it once or twice and you're fine. But if I'm consistently having you show up at a certain time, then and if I provide your computer for you, then you're definitely an employee. So the IRS cracks down. They don't want employers taking advantage of people and calling them an independent contractor when they're not. So an independent contractor is you use your own tools, you set the time of your work, and you decide how the work's going to be done. The term time flexibility, you can be pretty flexible depending on your systems. I feel like my life is pretty flexible. I can take, an hour off in the middle of the day on Thursday to come talk to you guys, partly because I'm an entrepreneur. The term, so this has to do with your feeling of safety. So this is where I skew it to the entrepreneur side. I was fired from 2 jobs within a month of each other when I was 23. And what I learned from that was employees were scary and dangerous, and everything could be ripped out from underneath you in an instant. And so I started my businesses. I'm so sorry. My husband brought me this parrot, and she's a pest, but she's just, so I have never searched for another job, and I feel like it's safer to be an entrepreneur. However, I talked to a lot of people that the risk of being an entrepreneur is more than they can handle. They'd rather go work for an employer and have a stable income. Great, no problem. Employee, who decides when you work? Your boss, you, or as an entrepreneur, you decide. Your clients actually decide for you. You don't have a lot of say in the matter. Honestly, I was there last night because one of my customers needed me. So there's a lot less. Independent contractor, you have a lot more say in when you spend your time, or when you work. So customers, this is a way to just look at it. If you are an employee, you have one customer. That's your boss. You are selling everything you have to that one customer. Because independent contractor, it's limited by the number of time, how many projects you can get done. As an entrepreneur, that's scalable. So the difference between an independent contractor and an entrepreneur is really the scalability and kind of the risk you're taking on. And we'll tease out some of those nuance later on too. But you can serve, if you have systems, you can serve a ton of, think about like Airbnb. How many clients do they serve? It's really scalable because it's not just the CEO dealing with one host and one guest at the same time. The term of employment, obviously employees, as long as you stay with that employer, as long as they want to keep you on board. Independent contractor, most independent contractors will be from gig to gig or year to year. I know somebody, one of my friends, if this gives you some confidence, I have a friend who knows nothing about web design. And yet when she's hungry and she's got to feed her kids, she'll go out and sell a $3,000 WordPress site, and she'll go and download the free version of WordPress and like kerplunk it out and then sell it to her customer. And I'm like, oh my gosh, wow, the moxie, but she'll just do a gig to gig, just to hand to mouth. Not my idea, but and then term of employment potentially for the rest of your life for an entrepreneur. Is this making sense? Please pipe in if you have any questions. Okay, the next one is the hierarchy. So as an employee, you may just be an employee, or you may be a manager with employees under you, but you are always managed by your employer. So again, if you want to be held accountable to your work, this is great. Somebody's there and you have this built-in accountability. If you are an independent contractor, you'll work alone, or you'll pull other independent contractors in with you to collaborate. And as an entrepreneur, you may work alone, or you'll have a team. So the difference between, you can be a self-employed contractor, independent contractor, or you can be a solopreneur. And the difference really is the scale. So if I'm working by myself as a solo entrepreneur, but I have a system that designs websites for people, then I can still be a solo entrepreneur. But if I am building the sites hand coded one by one by one, I'm an independent contractor. Responsibilities. So with an employee, you usually have a defined role. With an independent contractor, it's defined but fluctuates with the client's needs. So I know when I was doing, I feel like being an independent contractor is a little bit like being, I don't know, a little bit of a butler. Like one client may need you to do some weird thing, and another client may need you to jump through these hoops for them. And you're basically just doing whatever the clients are needing, which is fun. It's really creative. It really stretches you. I think that before I start any business, because I have multiple businesses, I start as an independent contractor, because independent contractors are on the ground. They hear the needs of their clients, and you'll find yourself doing the same thing over and over. If you find yourself doing the same thing over and over and over again, you may have an opportunity to turn it into a full-scale business. Like, for example, if you opened up a front end dev shop, and people were asking you to do all these beautiful designs, but they really didn't have good logos, or their colors were off. They didn't have a brand guide, and you were all, before you could even start their website, you were backtracking and doing brand guides, and then you heard the word. Then their friends started coming to you just for the brand guides because they already had a web developer. You basically were listening to the customer's needs, and you're a web developer, but you were doing these brand guides on the side, and it may turn into your full-time gig. Like, you may just realize that you're better at these brand guides. So independent contractors listen to the needs of their clients, and they're basically, when the client says jump, they jump. Entrepreneurs, you better learn how to fix a toilet, printer, and deal with the bank all in one day. So the roles as an entrepreneur are very varied. I mean, you are listening way bigger than just an independent contractor. Yeah, career trajectory. So as an employee, it's defined by the employer. Of course, you still have sovereignty. You can quit that employer if they're stifling you and move to a new employer, but you are still working for someone else's trajectory. Independent contractors is very flexible, but pivoting may just require new training. That's it. So maybe you find yourself doing more and more brand guides, and those are actually more profitable, and you like them. So you go ahead and go take some more design classes. Easy. You pivoted. You thought you were a web designer, and now you're a branding specialist. And then as an entrepreneur, you have a ton of control of your trajectory. You can stay small, you can go huge. You're the boss. I like to joke, one of my businesses is a hotel, and we were actually founded the same month as Airbnb, and we are not Airbnb. So and I'm happy, I'm just really happy I'm not Airbnb. So even though, co-founders, me and Brian Chesky were both founding our companies on the same month in 2008. Where we've come since then is so different, and no judgment. I love it. The next one is stewardship. Stewardship for the day-to-day business. If you're an employee, that belongs to your employer. They are in charge of keeping the lights on. Again, if you just love to just get in and get your work done and not have to worry about the peripheral stuff, then being an employee is great. But if that bothers you, then you need to look at the other two options very seriously. An outside example would be, my sister her husband is in the military, and so they move. Yes, they get to travel all over the world, but they live in Army housing and they can't paint their walls. I'm sorry, but I can't be in the military if I'm not allowed to paint my walls. Like, I mean, they can paint, but it's kind of a pain. I have to have control over my living space. The military would never work for me. So just an example. When you are an independent contractor, the stewardship of your day-to-day business, it's all on you. It really is. If you don't bill a client, one of my weaknesses is collecting money from my clients. I honestly am not a great independent contractor. I'm a better entrepreneur for this reason. I have people on my team that are better at asking clients to pay. Well, our assistant's like, I'm going to go make some money. And that's when she's going to go work on the accounts receivable. And I'm like, thank you for going to make some money for us. Go do the hunting, right? I'm just very bad. I'm not great at accounting. And I just, I hate asking people for money. I'd rather just do it for free all the time, which is not a very healthy place to be if you're an independent contractor. So, let's see, contract. So you answer to your boss. As an independent contractor, you answer to your clients. And as an entrepreneur, you answer to you, but you'd better also be listening to your clients. Sales and marketing, as an employee, your boss's responsibility, or you. I mean, you could just look at these. Really look at what you love about tech and decide why you love it. I love the possibilities that tech has for making our lives better. Not just automatic. I mean, I feel like a princess when the motion sensor light turns on in the hallway when I walk through and the lights turn on for me. Like that tech is great too. But I also want like tech that builds sites like Kiva that we can do micro loans to people all over the world and really change their family tree, end generational poverty. Like as a web designer, having the ability to create these sites that open people up to creative and beautiful experiences. My little girl, I've been a video editor since 2002 as well. And I'm teaching my 10-year-old how to edit, and she's using Final Cut, which is a pro software. She's starting her own YouTube channel, and it's just using tech to express ourselves and share information and just make the world a better place. Sales and marketing is really hard for me. Business admin is irritating to me. Customer service is okay. I don't mind customer service too bad. I'm pretty good at smoothing over people that are upset. But look at the different aspects of business and decide if you'd like somebody else to manage that for you, and how you want them to manage it for you. Do you want them to manage it as a boss, or do you want them to manage it as an employee? So I hate the business admin. So I could go be an employee, but it also bothers me when other people don't run businesses like I think they should, because I'm very opinionated. I don't know if you can tell, but I have zero opinions about anything. Then it makes more sense for me to find a team member that aligns with my vision to help me with that than to have a boss do that for me. Is this making sense? Okay. So business admin, and who provides your tools? You, your boss. Money. So the investment to get started, employees, nothing. I mean, just your training. Sometimes just the time to apply. With independent contractors, you need equipment and some training. You just need a computer and tech mom's certificate. Great. And then with entrepreneurship, you may need more upfront costs, and sometimes you need to bootstrap. So when we started Soul Seed Academy, I was bootstrapping from another business. So the funds used to create one business came from another. And it took Jeannie and I a good, year to get our team. We have a whole creator team that supports our women. It's taken us a year to get that creator team up and running. And that means everybody trained, everybody, so that now Jeannie and I can say to one of our clients, oh, you need this. Go ahead and make an appointment with the creator team and know that the creator team will take care of it for them. That took us a year of investment. So I was basically bankrolling their paychecks before we really started seeing an income. So that's an entrepreneur thing to do. Financial security. So as long as you're employed with it as an employee, it's great. But again, it can be terminated. So I don't want to sound sour, but that sucked when I was 23. But as an independent contractor, you are trading dollars for products, fixed contracts, or hourly. So if you don't work, you don't earn. And there's a little bit of flexibility. Like if you get really, really fast, then you could make more per hour, but it's still contract based. If you don't show up, you don't earn. An entrepreneur, once the business is stable, the security depends on the sustainability of the business model. So business is work. No matter what, you can't just set up an Amazon store and become rich tomorrow. Just don't listen to those people peddling that crap. But depending on the business model, you can step away. So my other business is with the hotel. I'm not there every day, and yet the income still comes in. So it's very stable, very, very stable. Even when COVID hits, it's stable. Financial cap. So you are capped as an employee. My kids are like, oh, was my favorite. My daughter's like, oh, I want to work at Costco when I grow up. And I was like, why? And she's like, so I can be rich. And I was like, oh, let's have a conversation about that. But there's amazing salaries. I mean, you can be the CTO of a company, of a startup, and be making a very, very good salary. So you can go pretty high. And in some ways, being an employee is more money than being an entrepreneur. So I know someone that makes about $200 an hour at her job as a UX designer. And if she were to go on the market, I don't know that she could consistently get 8 hours a day of that all the time. Like, she chooses to be an employee. She actually makes more money as an employee than she would as an independent contractor. And she wants nothing to do with entrepreneurship. Zero. She thinks that's as gross as could be. So hours worked and pay. So you have limited control of your hourly or salary income as an employee. As an entrepreneur, you have the opportunity, you have the potential to make money while you sleep. That's not a promise. It's not a given. I think a lot of people get confused between being a self-employed independent contractor and an entrepreneur. And the big difference is that scalability in your income. How scalable can you do? B, your tax benefits. As an employee, you have no tax benefits. Driving to work every day is not a deductible expense. As an independent contractor, you have some. It's great. You start experiencing some of the great tax laws. And as an entrepreneur, you have a lot of tax opportunities. I just want to get on my soapbox for a quick second. So sorry if this doesn't sound politically correct, but I am so grateful for the tax structure. I'm married to a tax specialist. I'm so grateful, even though the IRS is a pain to deal with and our tax code in the United States is such a mess, I am really grateful for the opportunities. We had, in one of our businesses, we had some money that was going to either be taxed, or we could get a tax credit if we spent it. So it's not like we buried it under a hole. We spent it. We infused our local economy with tens of thousands of dollars that we would not have normally spent. And it was in that moment that I was like, oh my gosh, people criticize the rich for not paying any taxes. But in order to earn the opportunity not to pay any taxes, you have to pay a whole lot of people in the community, which I thought was so cool. It just gave me a different perspective, that there's giving tax credits, but there's also just spending tax credits. When I hired, like if I were to hire you as an independent contractor, I hired $30,000 worth of independent contractors last year because of a tax credit. And those were people I literally would not have hired without that credit. So it's pretty cool.
Sarah, let me add something about the tax benefits. Just so the one thing is, as an employee, is that your employer does pay your Social Security, half of your Social Security and Medicaid taxes.
Yes.
So that's one thing that could be seen as a benefit.
Totally.
When you're an independent contractor, you have to pay that on your own. So that's, I mean,
and that's the next line. That is a huge benefit.
Okay, because Lindsay had put that before. She's like, when you're an independent contractor, you do your own taxes, right? You pay that. But you're showing there are other types of tax benefits that we don't already often know about.
Yep. So like the independent contractor, you can deduct your Google Fiber bill. You can deduct your mileage driving to clients if you're going to do that. You can deduct your Zoom subscription cost as the cost of doing business. You can do that as an independent contractor. But yeah. And I guess, I mean, depends on how big of an independent contractor you are. You still can take advantage of some of those tax credits. But the income stream is active when you're an employee. It's active when you're an independent contractor, and it's more passive when you're an entrepreneur. So did I make $200 last night for going and refilling the vending machine? No, it just kind of goes into, well, actually my kids refilled the vending machine, but it kind of goes into this big earning pool. And then like Robin mentioned, who pays your income tax? You and your employer. So you are paying half, they're paying half. As an independent contractor, you're paying 15%. And then as an entrepreneur, you're paying your income tax as well. If you're trying to negotiate a gig, so obviously this is where the advantage comes. And that's why the IRS tries to be really careful, is that you don't want an employer putting you down as an independent contractor so they don't have to pay half your taxes. So it's a 7.5% savings for the employer, and that's not fair. So if you're going to be, if it's kind of on the edge and you've decided to be an independent contractor, you can ask, okay, well, I do need you to pay me 7.5% more than if I'll be your employee. Just something you can negotiate. So who ultimately wins or suffers if the business wins or goes under? So the risk is on your employer, obviously, and the other ones, it's on you. Creativity, who trains you? Your boss might ask you to get training that you wouldn't normally pursue. You get the point. Solving a pain. When you are an employee, you're solving pain points for the employer. So our creator team works for Soul Seed Academy. My pain point is I need somebody to service my clients. So they are solving that pain for me. If you're an independent contractor, you're solving the pain for your clients. Again, like we said, whatever they say, within reason, of course. If they ask you for a website and then ask you to redo their kitchen, you're going to obviously decline, but you are more at the client's request. And as an entrepreneur, you're creating a systemized solution for a greater need. The ability to innovate depends on the company's culture, depends on the customer's requests or expectations versus endlessly. Quirk tolerance. I love quirk tolerance. So an ability to innovate. An example of that is I'm using Google. Have you ever seen anybody give a presentation on Google Sheets? Weird, huh? No. But I was like, I didn't want to just make slides. I wanted to give if you wanted to screenshot this or whatever, and it made sense. Quirk tolerance depends on your employer's company's culture. If you're an independent contractor, it's got to be in line for your customer's tolerance. And then we all know the super rich that are super duper duper quirky, and they're allowed to be super duper duper quirky as long as you're solving a pain. You can be quirky. So just something. I'm super quirky, and I would drive an employer crazy. So non-competes and NDAs. If you are developing, and these go hand in hand, who owns the intellectual property? When you create a website for your boss owns that. They own the code. They own everything you produce. If you're an independent contractor, depends on your agreement, but your client still owns the code. Or in my case, as a videographer, I maintain copyright over the footage. That's just in my terms, but it depends. And then as employee or as an entrepreneur, you own all of you don't have any NDAs or any copyright things you have to deal with other people. Okay, family, almost done here. Family friendly, depends on the employer. I wish I hadn't put this at the end because we're running out of time, only some time to questions. So I'm going to put this up here, but I want to go right to legacy. When you're an employee, you may be able to hand over your awards and maybe some pensions to your spouse, but not your children. When you're an independent contractor, there's really nothing to leave unless your kids pick up the trade. And then as an entrepreneur, you have the potential to leave financial security for generations to come. You also have the potential to ruin them for generations to come. So get a good trust lawyer, but there's the ability to leave that on. You can't sell your position as an employee. You can sell your business. Family friendly. I love that when I homeschooled my littles, they're teenagers now, but they came to the hotel with me and they learned how to fold really well. They learned how to count inventory in the stock shelves. And that was actually math for my second grader, was counting inventory and subtracting how many bottles of shampoo does mommy need to buy, that kind of thing. You can do that. You can do that as an employee, but that's one of the things I love about being an entrepreneur is involving my kids. The workplace too, usually on site after COVID. Now more employees are working from home, which I think is amazing. As a hotelier, I'm having a lot of digital nomads coming to stay. One of our students in the Soul Seed program is developing a travel company that basically caters to digital nomads. You can go work in Bali with her for a month or two. Go to these exciting places and still do your tech job. So and then stress. I want you to really think about what it means. For my husband, he's not an entrepreneur, and it is much less stressful for him to work for an employer. He as an entrepreneur, he would just blow his top. He just would not be able to handle it. It would be so stressful and overwhelming for him. For me, it would be very stressful to be in a job and be told when to have to wake up. I don't want to have to be told to put pants on. Okay, I'm a free spirit. Anyway, so there's did any of these points really strike home with you? Do you want to have it? Tell me what you think.
I want to say something, but I know other people, I don't want to stop other people from jumping in. Sarah, this is amazing and it's very comprehensive. This is a very detailed information. We did have someone ask if they could have access to look at these slides later or
Sure.
some way to, okay, wonderful. So my question is, I mentioned earlier that I'm very risk averse, right? So the idea of entrepreneurship has always felt very scary to me, right? Because, and I know people say like, everyone could lose their job anytime, but like knowing how much you're going to get paid every month felt like a stability for me. And one of the things I've wondered about, and the difference again for the independent contractor versus the entrepreneur is how do you find the people that you're working for? Like, I think it's a more common pathway to we know how to look for jobs and apply for jobs. But when you decide I want to become an independent contractor, I want to become an entrepreneur,
Oh, that's such a good question.
how do we know how to find who we want to work for?
Yeah, okay. That's sorry I neglected that. I just so independent contractors, there's lots of places like freelancer.com, Fiverr, Upwork. I used to do gigs on KSL. I used to do $200 for a website, you guys, and I got a ton of clients, and some of them, that was like 15 years ago, some of them are still sitting on my server. So you get a web design client once and you have them for life, especially if you can host them on your server. It's a fantastic deal. But yeah, gigs are, you just get yourself traction on one of these sites, build up a reputation. You can, as an independent contractor, still hire an assistant. So if you are bad at sales, you could still hire a virtual assistant to book some of those, to make bids and book some sales appointments for you. You can still operate like that. The difference is your money, your efforts are tied to, like if you build a website, you get paid, versus an entrepreneur, it's a scalable thing. But you can have employees as an independent contractor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's hard. The sales part is hard. I know when I was working gigs, yeah, I felt a little bit like I was just standing on a street corner doing a dance all the time. And yeah, so
And
really
so how is that different? Like finding those jobs, I mean, finding work, how is it different between it being an independent contractor and being an entrepreneur?
Entrepreneur is more systemized, I feel like, and plus you've got the scale. So becoming an entrepreneur became more a jump. Like once I got too busy as an independent contractor, the entrepreneur thing followed after naturally. One thing though is I was developing a tech company about 4 years ago. And one of the biggest criticisms I got was because my goal was I wanted to give my ideal client all of the tools they needed to build their website. So I basically was trying to be Wix, Squarespace. There's a lot better options out there now, but back in 2016, Wix was still a joke. And so, but the criticism was, well, why are you making them do it? Why don't you just do it for them? And I remember telling my mentor, like, I'm so sick of being a consultant. I'm so sick of talking to people who don't know what they want. And they're expecting me to fix their business problems with a shiny new website. I'm so tired of it. And little did I know, as being prophetic, because that's what Soul Seed Academy does, is we are not a consultant. We do build websites, but we don't do it in a consultant way. We do it we teach the woman how to do it. Well, not how to code, but how to be the mastermind behind the site.
Mm-hmm.
Does that answer? I know it was a little
It
bit.
does. It does. It's fascinating. And I know that's kind of beyond the scope of this workshop today, but anybody have questions? Anybody thinking about things? I know, Sarah, I want you to wind up with telling us a little bit about your Soul Seed workshops and the other things. I know we've had one of our tech moms do your workshop. She loved it. She said it's fantastic. So, but I want to make sure that we open a space for anybody else with questions as they're thinking about what might be the right pathway for them moving forward.
Yeah. What are your business plans? What are your plans? And
Well, I don't know if they have business plans yet. They first have
Well,
to decide if they're going to be an entrepreneur.
Well, not necessarily. No, business plans could be an employee. My plan is to go get a great tech job. Great. Berta, are you getting a great tech job because you love the benefits of being an employee, or because you don't understand what it's like to be an independent contractor? And I guess the better question is, what are your fears going into this big wide tech world as a woman? That's probably a better place to start, because some of those fears sometimes are irrational or based on a false belief. And if you clear up the false belief, then, like, one of the biggest false beliefs we come across is that if I'm an entrepreneur, then I'll work harder. I'm already maxed out as an employee. If I start a business, I'll work 5 times harder, and I can't do that. And that's a lie. That's a downright lie. The captain of a rowboat doesn't work any harder than the captain of a cruise ship. In fact, the captain of a rowboat kind of works harder than a captain of a cruise ship, because they're the ones sweating it out rowing, right? And there's not even a comfortable bed to sleep in. But a captain of a cruise ship is setting the direction, but they're not slugging it out in the machine room. Does that make sense? So it's a huge lie that when you become an entrepreneur, you have to work harder. It's the same. I work as hard now as I did as an employee. Actually, maybe a little less. I don't know. It's more fun. But I'm 20 years into it, so I don't know.
You've paid your dues, right?
I still work super hard. I'm still willing to clean a toilet all the time. I really would rather clean a toilet than bill clients. So
I'm glad you've got someone to bill your clients. I would love you to come clean my toilets.
Yeah. So what are your fears, Alberta? Like what is like making you kind of taking your breath away?
Well, I think I have fears related to all 3 of these. I think the biggest,
but what are your fears and what is the fear?
well, for getting a job is just, can I get a job? The whole resume thing, just, resumes scare me. And also I'm too old. Will they like me? I'm not like a really personal person. And so doing interviews also terrifies me. So just about everything about getting a job terrifies me. Having a job would be great, because there are a lot of things about having a job that so yeah, so there's that.
What excites you about the tech industry? Why did you get into this in the first place?
Well, because basically just because of tech moms, really. That's why I got into it, because they put tech and mom together. I'm like, I never thought that could go together. So, and I am a mom, so I thought maybe I'll try this tech thing. But
the age thing, you've brought that up like 2 or 3 times. I don't know how old you are, but I don't think you're older than me. And I think that the age thing, again, spin on it. What's the strength is that you are more experienced with UI. You have seen design trends. Now that you understand from a tech standpoint, the front end development, you understand what's happening, what's happened over the last 20 years in website design. And you can service your client in a way different way than a 23-year-old Snapchat addicted little zit-faced graduate. You really, really have so much more context that you can bring your employer.
Yeah, the trouble is if the employer can see that, because they might.
It's all about you telling them, girlfriend. It's you telling them. Yeah.
But then the whole, you don't fit into our culture. Does that mean that I'm too old? I mean.
Well, that's the cool thing about the nomadic traveler at this point, or the nomadic business person, is that you can work from home for a lot of these tech companies now. You can code in your jammies.
Yeah, and that's exactly why that's one of the big things that attracted me to tech, is working in my jammies.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that the just again, soapbox. I feel like because I have been in the good old boys club, like I've had to like schmooze the good old boys club, the tech world, and it's not for me. It's yeah, you can go out and do your golf and your drinking and your good old boys, like cool tech, like bean bags and the office thing, free beer on tap. Fine, if that's your office culture, okay, great. But I'm gonna just become the most valuable developer you've got on your team, and ultimately your boss is going to worry more about your productivity than that. I mean, all that stuff is to try and keep employees engaged. If you're really engaged, does your employer care that you're not there at beer bong nights? I don't know. Sorry to use such strong language, but I just got so sick of dealing with that mindset that I'm like, I have 4 other businesses to take care of and 4 kids and a husband and a bird. I don't have time for your little things at night. I don't have time and I don't want to do them. I just want to get in and get my work done and get out.
And that's my thought exactly.
Yeah. No, super valuable to your employer. Come in with that and just say, look, I'm experienced. I'm really good at whatever. And just.
There's also lots of options. There's plenty of companies. And so you learn how to present yourself and speak about yourself and speak with confidence.
Yeah, but I'm really bad at that.
So, okay, here's your strength weakness thing here. You are humble, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're extremely humble. Okay.
Yeah, I don't really like to talk about myself.
Exactly. It's not about yourself. It's about all the other things, right?
It's about your client, really. I guess you're humble, but you're also pretty self-absorbed. I'm just saying this in jest because really, like,
No, it's
who really
true.
cares? Your customer, if you can solve a pain for your employer or your future customer, then they're going to be so grateful because you've tapped into their needs, their pain, and you can hide behind your humility and your service, and you're willing to just be there and not worry because they're not. So, yeah. Sorry, I don't know you. I don't want to hurt your feelings, but we all go through this as women because we have been conditioned to be always looking out for other people and are we good enough and all this stuff. But especially in the tech field, it's about solving problems and being quicker, cleaner, meaner, not meaner. But
And that's what I love about tech is the whole problem solving thing. That's one thing I love to do just in any context, really. And tech problems are really satisfying to solve.
Yeah.
So.
Well, if you ever wanted to role play an interview, I'm not currently hiring, but I'd be happy to role play an interview with you and help you see how you could just come across to your employer as ready to solve their problems and sound confident, even though, okay, I joked at the beginning, you guys, my tech skills ended in 2006 when I started 2007, whatever was top of the line web development in 2007, I'm right there. That is where I end. And yet now, I run this incubator. I know enough to be dangerous. You don't have to know everything. And I'm a learner. I like to know everything. You don't have to be everything and know everything to solve really painful problems. You just have to be humble and listen, which you have no problem with.
Hey, we're out of time. Sarah, can you quickly tell us what services you do about your workshops and different things like that? So our other tech moms here in person or those watching later can understand if they're interested in what you're doing, how to learn more and get involved.
Yeah, I would love to. So yeah, Soul Seeds Academy is starts with a 2-day business breakthrough retreat. And even if you don't want a business, Alberta, you'd be perfect because we basically just go through your strengths really in depth and all of the options in creating either an employer relationship or a client relationship. And we give that, normally it's $350, but we give that to tech moms for $50. So it's a 2-day retreat, includes all the food and everything for $50 because you guys are right at the cusp of making these big, crazy decisions. And we want you to walk away with all the tools and like the informed consent of what you're really putting yourself into. And then we do have a full scale business incubator program. And because we're a training, you can qualify for learning grants for our tuition. But I would love, especially tech moms, I love what you guys are doing. And I would love to connect you with our clients who need websites and who need stuff because we don't do everything in the incubator. We just take care of the beginning stuff. So if you want to learn more about the retreats, you can go to soulseedacademy.com or reach out to Robin and she'll have our contact information. hello@soulseedacademy.com.
Wonderful. Well, we've heard fantastic things and we love that you're willing to give a discount and look for different funding opportunities. This is so fascinating. So if you're watching this on a replay, reach out to me or the Soul Seed Academy to find out more. When are you doing your next workshops?
So the next retreats start in the end of August. We have some in August, September, and October.
Wonderful. So coming right up in the fall. All right. Thank you so much, Sarah and Jeanne both. This was fantastic. Thanks for access to the slides. And we're super excited to learn more and continue this conversation. But we appreciate everybody joining us today. We will see you again next time.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Need to turn off the recording. I tried to turn off the recording.